Hey, music. And welcome to this episode of Radical Vision for Disabilities, where we begin to talk about the person with disabilities and how important it is for us all to understand what they're going through. But there's times where we have as the person with disabilities, we aren't able to communicate what we want and what we need. So it's important for us all as caregivers to be able to understand that person with disabilities and what they have, because we all have blindness in our lives at different times, whether we have disabilities or we're a caregiver. So having said that, I have a special friend that I want to bring on the show with me today, and her name is Angela Dee Smith. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Brian?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have a long weekend planned to go up to the mountains to ski, so I'm excited.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So Angela Dee, is it Angela Dee or Angela Dee Smith? I'm.
I go by Angela Dee. That's my writer's name, kind of my professional name, but you can call me whatever. It's Angela Smith is my last name, so we're good.
All right. Well, thank you. So tell me, Angela Dee, when is your first recollection of knowing your vision?
Oh gosh, I would probably say right around 3-4 years old.
What?
Well, it changed through the years because I can't do just one thing, but yeah. I always wanted to be a wife and a mother. That was kind of my thing. And then obviously as I grew and went to college and so forth, it morphed into more things, but
Awesome. If you want to hear more, stick around. Awesome. Angela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so this is going to be a great interview, and I'm really looking forward to it. But before we start that, I want to make sure that the people online, the audience out there, knows that if you're listening to this live, put in the hashtag live and let us know where you're coming in from. And then if you're listening to this on replay, put in a hashtag replay. And again, let us know where you're coming in from. Here's the important part. One of the important parts. So one of the important parts is to share this video out with as many other people as you can think of. So share this video out and make this community as large as possible. The next part is, in order to be entered into a raffle to win a signed copy of my book, and maybe Angela's too, but in order to be able to win a signed copy of my book, I want for you to be able to put a picture of you in your timeline of you winking. And when you wink, I want you to begin to understand what makes you unique, because we all need to understand what makes us unique, because then we can use our uniqueness to serve other people. So having said that, serving other people, Angela, you've done a lot of that over your days.
I sure have.
So, and if there's ever anybody else that's listening in, please put in comments and let us know if you have any questions as well. Angela, let me ask you, what is your story?
Well, as a young child, I basically, like I said, I'm from a large family of 6 children. And I heard just this week, Brian, you are from a family of 10. So large families are awesome, aren't they? But anyway, as a child, I basically, in my mind, I wanted to grow up and I wanted to be a wife and a mother. So that's what I did. And as I got out of high school, I realized I wanted to serve children. I just have a love for children. And so in college, I got a double major in special education and elementary education. And soon after I got married, went into teaching. So from there, uh, we I got married, had 3 children, and started raising those children. We decided as my kids were young that we would, you know, I would stay home until they were school aged, and then I would go back to work. So right about that time, uh, I guess the kids were about 3, 6, and 8, and the little one was going to be heading off to school very shortly, probably preschool. And so the summer of 2000, our lives changed forever. My son Spencer got sick, kind of with some flu-like symptoms. We had just moved into our dream house out in the country, and 10 days later, he started having seizures. He neurologically declined from a normal 6-year-old to an infant level in about 2 weeks' time. And on our 10-year wedding anniversary, when we were supposed to be renewing our vows in our special garden, we were heading back to Children's Hospital to spend the summer with our son. So, long story short, Spencer got a virus that crossed the blood brain barrier, got into his brain, and did global brain damage.
Hmm.
We spent about 2.5 months in Children's Hospital that summer and brought home a severely special needs child. So, as you can well imagine, we had to start over and figure out what is a new normal with a child in a wheelchair that needs to be tube fed, cannot speak, is 24/7 care. And then we have these 2 other normal children and a family business to run. So
Wow.
that's kind of when my life took a turn, and wow, what I have learned on the journey since has been amazing.
So tell us the people online and myself. We want to know more about everything. So what did you learn?
Well, there's so many lessons I've learned. It's all in my book, which I can talk a little bit about later.
What's your
Um,
book?
so the book is called Voiceless, Spencer's Story, and it's all about a mother's journey raising a son with significant needs along with 2 other children, trying to hold together a marriage. Um, as I said, I wanted to go back to work, go back to teaching, but right about that time is when Spencer got sick. So when I was going to go back into teaching, I ended up another 15 years at home. Uh,
Hmm.
so the amount of things that I got thrust into instead of heading back into the classroom, I was learning nursing skills, and I was learning how to be a therapist, and I was learning how to be an executive secretary so that I could manage all the insurance claims. And we call him the $1 million man because, if you've been in the hospital for 2.5 months, that's a lot of claims and things, ordering new equipment that we had no idea what we were doing. So it was just a huge learning curve as far as that goes. And then we realized insurance doesn't pay for the amount of physical therapy he needs. So then we went to our church and our community, and we had a lot of volunteers coming into our house to do therapies. So training them. Uh, so besides all of that, just the amount of what I learned dealing with a special needs child every day that can't speak or tell me how he's feeling, uh, the relationship that I built with him, and which, bled into other relationships, all the different things you learn from a nonverbal child. Uh, how to read people without words
Yeah.
is takes time, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so what I learned from Spencer is he speaks mostly through his eyes, and what I see mostly when I look in his eyes is love. Now, if he's
Mm.
in pain or if he's worried about something, I can see that too. Uh, if
How do you see that?
Well, you really have to tune in. It took years to kind of decipher what is it that I'm seeing, And a lot of times I would ask God, "Hey, help me out with this."
Mhm.
Um, but for instance, when I would say, "Hey, Spencer, we need to pray for so and so," he would get very hyper focused, like he was really, really listening. Whenever I said that, he would get very hyper focused, and he would look in my eyes, like, "Okay, we're serious now." When he was worried or in pain, it was more of just kind of an intense look, sometimes looking away, sometimes looking back, sometimes having a grimace. Um, if I was talking about family things or other people, it was such an intense uh, one-on-one eye contact, like he was hyper focused, really, really listening and focusing in on what I was saying. Um, and then there were other times he would just look away, like, "Yeah, I'm not with you right now.
Hmm.
Like, I don't want to be with you right now."
Yeah.
And then if there was a resounding yes, it was always lots of blinking, blinking, blinking. That meant yes.
It,
So we did at least um, get that from him a lot. So.
is he able to move his head?
Uh, More so when he was younger, not so much now. He can. He'll do some kind of abrupt movements.
Mm.
If he hears a loud sound coming in, he'll turn towards the noise. I feel like he's a lot like a stroke victim in that he has a lot going on in there, but we just don't know how much, obviously, because he can't tell us. Um, I do think he has memories of his past, uh, and memories of since he had the brain damage, he has memories from that point on as well. But I do also think he has some memories of his, I guess, what you would call normal years of being a little boy. So,
Mm.
and the
Wow.
way I know that is when we talk about certain situations or memories, he'll laugh or he'll smile, or same as if we show him a picture. When I talk about things that happened in the hospital, he gets angry. He's like, "I've heard this story a million." To me, in my mind, I'm thinking he's got to be tired of this story.
Hmm.
He's heard it so many times. So he's like, "Yeah, step out. Don't want to hear it again."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Wow. So this is maybe an odd question, but how is that all? How has all this shaped your life?
boy, it's made me an incredibly strong person. I was so shy as a child. I had a really hard time just even looking adults in the eye, and I was really shy. I don't even know how to explain it than just. And now when people meet me, they think I'm more of an extrovert, which really I'm kind of an introvert by nature. But it has honed so many skills, patience, a lot, endurance, compassion for people. You never know what somebody's going through. Just treat them with compassion because everybody's going through something. um, Perseverance, flexibility in schedules, kindness. Just be kind to people.
Yeah.
The world can be a hard place. It's an exciting place too, but um, showing mercy and grace to people. Having blind faith, there were so many times I just was like, God, why me? What?
Yeah.
Why'd you choose me as his
Yeah.
mother? You know?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So sometimes we don't know what we're planting seeds for, and we just have to have faith that we
Keep
just need to
planning.
keep planting because they're going to grow. We may not see the fruits of our labor, but still just keep doing the good.
That's
So,
what we're here for.
yep, absolutely.
Hmm. Wow. So tell us about your book.
Well, basically, I think about 3 weeks in when Spencer was in the hospital, I was just beside myself. That's just, it was 2000. The internet was just kind of coming on the scene, and I was Googling, or was there even Google back then? I don't know. I was researching every night. I was trying to be the doctor going, why can't these doctors figure out what got into my child's brain and why it's causing all this damage? So I was just trying to make sense of it all. Well, at the same time, he wasn't doing well, and I wasn't sure whether he was going to make it or not. So I found myself in the parking garage praying, going, again, why me? And what do I do with this? Like, it's over my head. And at that point, I kind of got a message from God to start writing everything down because at some point I would write a book. And of course, at that moment, it was so overwhelming. I'm like, yeah, right. you know.
Yeah.
But then 16 years later, finally the book came to be.
Wow.
So it was kind of mostly a cathartic thing for me to get it all down. And
Hmm.
if it helps one other person that's raising a special needs son or daughter, or maybe even a person that's caregiving, then, you know, that's what it was for. So we were so grateful to have such community support. Uh, wow, our community just came around us like crazy. And I have a joke that our church, they served us meals literally for a year, 3 times a week for a year. That's how long the food chain was. But
Wow.
but I have this joke that I have never eaten lasagna since, because for whatever reason people love to bring lasagna for the food train.
Yes.
And and so anyway, for those of you that are out there, if you ever make a meal for somebody, choose something other than lasagna.
Why is it? Why is that everybody makes lasagna?
I don't know, it must be a really easy thing, but and it is delicious. My husband's still like, "Would you please just make lasagna?" And I'm like, "No, I won't." But
Uh,
anyway, but
that's
anyway,
funny.
that's just that's kind of the joke in our family now.
Hmm.
And we just so appreciated it, you know. But
Yeah,
yeah. So anyway, it's
that's
just
funny.
funny.
So tell me, in your book, is there a process you take people through? And so in my book, we go from blindness to sight to vision. That's part of the process, part of the framework. I know the author, the person that we went through, and we both wrote our book with the same person. So is there something like that you go through?
Not really. When I first was going through the whole proposal aspect of my book, trying to get it in steps, you know, and get it in chapters, I had way too much information for a 60,000 word book. So mine was
Hmm.
almost cut in half. But anyway, I was struggling with that because I knew I could build a class or something around this book, and build a business, but I wasn't ready at that point.
Hmm.
I was like, I just got to get my story down. So I go into my faith journey and the ups and downs of that you go through with God when you are in a grief process or mourning. My biggest thing is you don't want to stay in the grief. Grief can hold you back from your destiny, and um, everybody needs to mourn properly and get through the steps. And you may go back and repeat steps, but
Hmm.
if you stay stuck, then God can't take you where you need to go.
Hmm.
And after about 2.5 years, as I had walked away from God and I was still in that why me, poor me, kind of the victim mode, and I realized this is not who I am, people started avoiding me. And I was like, I got to do something. So what did I do? I came back to God because that was really the only way, and kind of started healing from there. And so, that's kind of my message is don't get stuck in the why. Everybody goes through crisis. Everybody goes through struggles, hard times in their life. Uh, but if you kind of stay in that victim cycle, you never get to the victorious part of your life.
Yeah, we all want to
So,
be there.
and there's a lot of healing that has to take place in between,
Yeah.
but it's worth it for sure.
Hmm. Awesome. Good advice.
So,
So tell me,
yeah.
how has this impacted your other relationships, like with the other kids and everything?
Well, I think there needs to be more education on how having a severe special needs child affects the other children, because I don't think there's enough. Maybe that's my next book. I don't know.
There
Um,
you go.
they're at that point where they're like, we lived it, mom. We love them, but we're moving on because it's a lot for them. They have this child in their life who requires a lot of attention.
Hmm.
They don't see a lot of the results and the benefits of all the time you're giving to this person, because a lot of that time is just maintaining what you have.
Right.
Spencer didn't improve a lot over the years. And so we made we got our kids into counseling very early on. We made a concerted effort to plan a date night every week with my husband. People were like, "You have a date night every week?" I'm like, "Yeah, we do." But we really intentionally plan these things, trying to keep them realizing, hey, I'm important too. I would have date days with my kids. We would plan vacations away with just the two of them and leave Spencer at home with the nanny. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, I would still go and be the room mom and go on field trips. And I wanted them to know that they were individuals as well and they were important as well. Um, and so, yeah, it took a lot of planning, but now they're both I feel like they're very young, successful adults. My oldest son is working in the family business and he's trying to decide if that's where he wants to stay or if he wants to move
Awesome.
forward. And my daughter is working, she's always loved animals. So she's a veterinary assistant right now. For the last 2 years, she's been working with horses. That was her, equine sciences was her major. So now she's up in Vail, she's out of the cold, and she's indoors working at a vet clinic. So that's good. But
Huh.
they're both doing very well as young adults and exploring their options in life. And I think it's made them very strong individuals as well.
Well, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
they've learned a lot of things they otherwise would not have learned. I think they're both quite emotionally mature for their age as well, which can sometimes be hard, but has
Sure.
benefited them in a lot of ways too.
Hmm. How has the pandemic affected things?
Well, I can't be as frank as I want to be, but I really have seen Spencer maybe 5 times this year.
Oh.
When typically I'm at his house, he's in a group home now, but I'm usually at his house about 3 days a week for a couple hours,
Hmm.
just hanging out in his room or watching a movie with him. I like to interact with the other clients that live with him as well.
Hmm.
So that has been probably the most difficult thing for me. That the only times I've really seen Spencer is when he's been in the hospital or I've had quick outdoor meetings with him 6 feet away.
Wow. And
So they just told us yesterday that we could start coming and visiting within the next 2 weeks again. So that's good
oh, good.
because they've all been vaccinated. So I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh, that's great. Let me ask you then. So, uh, in terms of all that you have going on, what's next?
Well, right now I am building my brand and business as we speak. What I would like to do is art was a big healing part of my life.
Yeah.
I did end up getting divorced in 2012, and I poured myself into the creative side of my brain, basically, once I had time to take care of me. So I want to encourage women who are in that empty nest time of their life to discover or recover their creative self. I'm developing a Facebook group right now and some classes around that concept. Women spend a good portion of their life caring for others, and one of my goals of this group is to promote self care through creativity, different art forms, and I'm formulating it a lot around this book. It's called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's been
Hmm.
around for a long time, but great concepts in here. Um, so that's kind of what I'm in the process of doing now, and I'm very excited about it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you have a website as well. We need to get that website up here to show everyone. That is Angela D life, right?
Uh-huh. Yep. Correct.
What will we be able to find on that website?
Right now, it has a lot of my book media interviews, radio interviews, my book trailer, things about my book, blog posts over the years. Uh, but upcoming, as I said, I'm working on blog posts that are going around this brand and this business that I'm formulating right now. So I have about 10 blog posts kind of in there ready to go, but I'm not launching this whole thing until probably late summer. So I'm just
Oh, really?
getting everything, kind of all the irons in the fire, getting ready to go.
Huh.
So
And so, can you talk about the Facebook page yet, or no?
well, yeah, it's called Called to Create. I think I had a different name 2 weeks ago. That's all the formulating process. That Called to Create. It's going to be Called to Create, Refreshing Your Soul.
Hmm.
And I will be sharing, weekly vlogs and blog bleh, blog posts on my website, and then vlogs also to follow that on the Facebook page. And I'll be inviting women to, show me, what is it you do? What does your creative self do? There's things that I do. But everybody kind of has different things they tap into that just kind of help them to relax. Um, and a lot of mine right now is paint, alcohol inks.
Hmm.
I've done pottery. I used to make jewelry. Kind of have put that on the back burner for now, but it's kind of whatever I'm feeling at the time. So,
Huh.
and
Well,
I'll
that's
go in.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll go into a lot of those techniques in the Facebook group and so forth.
So, would you say that's what you do to recharge?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I lose. I lose all sense of time. Um, but I'm also very much into nature. So
Hmm.
do a lot of hiking, journaling, because I'm still writing. And writing is a little bit harder for me to sit down and write a book and put all those thoughts on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But I journal very regularly. Um, so
So, when you journal, do you like have a bullet journal, or do you just write? You write what's going on for the day? Do you write down what you're grateful for? How do you journal?
all the above.
Yeah.
Well, I usually start out with grateful, and then sometimes I'll write down thoughts of the day. Um, there's times when I just write down a prayer request or a prayer to God, or it's whatever the day brings.
Hmm.
Honestly, there is a lot of gratefulness that goes into it. Um, it's so funny you asked that, Brian, because last year I had like 4 different journals,
Hmm.
and it was a mess because I was like, I had a prayer journal, and then I had my daily journal, and then I had my answered prayers journal, and then I had, and I was running around the house trying to find all these journals all the time instead of having them in one place. Wait, where did I leave that one? So finally this year I went back to, I'm putting it all in one place.
It's there.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's good. That's good. You've gotten consolidated.
That was part of my plan last year. It's like, you know, get out all the noise and the chaos and simplify. So,
Yeah. Simplify and go skiing.
yes, exactly.
So there you go. Oh, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today. I really appreciate it, Angela.
Thank you so much. It was fun. I
I,
enjoyed it.
when you and I first met years and years and years ago, I never would have imagined that it would come to this, but this has been great. So thank you for
It's been
doing this.
fun. Well, thank you so much for having me, Brian. And I enjoy listening to all the people you've had on. I've just listened to all the people this week, and it's been very inspiring. So thank you for
Awesome.
taking the time to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you can stick around for a little bit, I'm going to put you back in the green room and then I'm going to close out the show.
Sounds great.
All right.
All
Awesome.
right. Thanks. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.
All right.
Okay.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Woo. Woo. That was a deep one. I'll tell you, Angela Dee really has gone through a lot, but she has made it so far with what she has. It's been phenomenal to watch her, to see her grow. And all that she's offering the world right now is going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited for her. So let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up next week. Next week is the week of today is the 20th, right? So the week of the 22nd. And the 22nd, we have guys like Phil Gerbishak coming on. Phil Gerbyshak is not only a guy that really knows his vision, he knows his core strengths, because that's important, but he also knows a lot about LinkedIn. And he's a great guy to have as a part of this. And he also knows a lot about sales, and that is why we're bringing him on next week. And then there's other people that are going to be joining as well. So I won't go into all those, but just rest assured, it's all going to be great. And they're all going to be people that have understood their core beliefs, and then they have took them and matched them up with their vision. There's so much good coming, and I appreciate you all being on, and I hope you all have a nice weekend. But as always, keep one eye on